let's move on to agenda item 7, our Finance Committee report. Chair Davis.
Just need a, there you go. We have 2 action items for the board today. The first is that the board directs staff to convene a working group to address the topics of voted and board leeway, the guarantee, truth in taxation, and transparency. The working group should include invited stakeholders representing business administrators from local LEAs, local board members, legislators, representatives from USBE, the Utah Taxpayers Association, the State Tax Commission, and a representative from the county level. And then I have an amendment.
Okay. Let me restate the motion, Chair Davis.
Levy.
I'll restate the motion and then you can amend. Is that okay?
Yes, and it was written, I'm sorry, and I read it as it was written, but it's levy, not leeway.
That's a good catch.
The voted and board levy. That was a great catch. Thank you, Member Bogus.
So the motion that came out of committee.
You're like, that's a new tax. Oh, no more taxes. Yeah.
The motion that came out of committee is that the board directs staff to convene a working group to address the topics of voted and board levy, the guarantee, truth in taxation, and transparency. The working group should include invited stakeholders representing business administrators from the local LEAs, local board members, legislators, representatives from USBE, the Utah Taxpayers Association, the State Tax Commission, and a representative from the county level. Is that correct?
Yes, and I have an amendment.
And let's back to you then for the amendment.
Thank you. And I would move to add 2 additional stakeholders to the work group from the LFA office, the Legislative Fiscal Analyst, and GOPB, the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget.
So the motion to amend is to include the representative from the GOPB and a representative from the LFA.
And I'll speak briefly to it if I may.
Is there a second? Second. There's a second. Back to you.
What we found, we appreciated Member Earl's motion in our last full board meeting, and what we found as we've been studying in committee is there's just layer upon layer upon layer, and you say, well, why can't we just do this hearing at this time? Well, because we get the information from the county at this time and we're begging for it or whatever. So then there are different, it reminds me of is it called a Rube Goldberg machine? Is that what it's called? It reminds me of that. The whole taxes, property taxes scenario reminds me of that machine, because there's this affects this and this affects that and this piece affects that. And so anyway, that's why we have all of these different people on the list here, not people, but roles necessarily in agencies representative. And that's why we need to add these other 2, is because we just want to make sure we get kind of a comprehensive working group to look through all of those to see if there are ways to adjust the equalization cap or a variety of things with the timelines of the county and such.
Okay, Member Earl?
Yes, I just want to say I appreciate the discussion that took place in committee last month and the engagement. I appreciate the public's comments. Since then, I've had quite a bit of discussion, a couple of legislators that are actually working on not only the truth in taxation provision, but also that timeline. So I do think this is the right direction to go. They've also been engaging with some of these similar stakeholders to ask those questions, just saying, look, the budget, once you've got a budget ready to go and then you go to the truth in taxation afterwards, it's a problem for constituents. The other thing is I went back and I told Howard Stevenson that I'd go back and look at my taxes and see what the increase has been. And it has literally been from 2013 to my taxes I got last week, double and then some. So whatever, 3,000 to 8,000, right? That's what people are responding to. Not that we're 43rd in the nation, not that we're 50th in this category or whatever, bottom of pulling in whatever taxes for whatever. They're looking at the taxes they're paying on their homes, and they're saying This is an issue. So I do appreciate the discussion. The motion was to get people started in the discussion, and I appreciate that we'll continue to do that. I think we're going to see some movement. The legislature themselves are hearing this pushback. That's what, when I brought this forward, that's the same thing I'm hearing. While we don't tax, we do have constituents that are concerned about that tax money and how it's being spent in education and what it's being going for. So I think we are involved in that, whether we realize that or not. So I do appreciate the thoughtfulness in the group there, and especially our staff members. I just have to say thank you for being willing to kind of look at those numbers, look at what happens in the impact. So anyways, that's my comments.
Thank you. Member Kelly.
I guess my question is to Board Member Davis. Have you made the original motion? You mentioned that you had an amendment. Did you make that amendment? Because I know that your amendment included adding a few others to that list. Have you made that amendment?
Yeah, the amendment
I don't see
was
the
made.
amendment.
It's just not on the screen here.
Okay.
And I don't know who's driving, but remember and that's what we're voting on. We're not voting on this full list. We're voting to add the GOPB and LFA to this list.
And so then I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm gonna make an amendment to your amendment that we also add 2 members of the general public to that.
So there's an amendment to the amendment to add 2 members of the general public. Is there a second? There's a second. Go ahead, Member Kelly.
No, I think there's constituents out there that are interested in this topic that don't necessarily hold a position in public office that I think can add tremendous insight to the discussion. And I don't think, I think we ought to look for opportunities to include the general public in that discussion.
So I've got Member Bogus and Member Davis. Are you speaking to this amendment to amend? Member Davis.
Yeah, just a question of how would those 2 be chosen? Because we talked a little bit about this before, and it was kind of tough because the tax structure and the taxes are so different geographically in so many different places, and so you would get widely different perspectives. But I'm not saying that's a problem, but all of these others have kind of an organization that would suggest, here's these people available to help with this working group. In this case, it's, there's tons and tons of people out there. So how would staff typically puts together a working group? How should they choose 2 members of the public? Is there a criteria or?
Response, Member Kelly.
And I don't know if that question was directed towards me or not. I think maybe staff, Scott Jones, could help us with this in terms of, but if I would envision a process where general members of the public could apply to be added to this, what are we calling it, group, working group, and then staff, look at the background of those individuals that are applying and choose 2 of those individuals. So.
Okay, thank you. That helps, Chair. If I may just follow up. So, do we need to add that to the motion that they would apply through application?
So yeah, I'd be willing to
I don't know if it would need to be as part of the motion, since we're not
Okay.
directing anybody
That's
else.
fine if it doesn't need to be.
I think we would need to go through a process. So I guess my question would be, when it does happen, does it come to similar to where does it come to executive where we had that discussion over Kelsey?
Thank you, Chair. The board recently, in response to legislative action, put together and I'm not gonna say the name right, the student data reporting, the working group or task force, I should say, was looking at issues on the student information systems.
Treasurer is doing it.
Yes. So Deputy Jones is nodding his head yes, so I am speaking truth. So the way the staff did that, because it was a task force and it doesn't necessarily go through our usual process of advisory committees, like,
No, it's a working group.
okay, working group, excuse me. Because it was, a different format than our advisory groups, it went through a slightly different process where, there was, people did put their name forward for the individual roles that were outlined by the board and by 508. And staff looked over those names that were submitted and the backgrounds like Member Kelly talked about. And then basically we came back to the board and said, hey, these are the people staff have chosen of those that were that the names that were submitted. Do you approve them? And the board voted to approve those. So I assume a similar process would play out here, just like with the USDB working group as well. I believe that was a very similar process.
Is that good with you, Vice Chair Kelly?
Okay, so the motion then is to amend the amendment to include, I'm looking for, to add 2 members of the general public to the list of stakeholders. Let's vote. Member Green,
Yes.
that passes unanimously with Member Lear absent. Okay, so now we're to the amendment.
And may I speak one more time? I know my light's on for this, but, oh, not about the amendment. Sorry, the underlying.
Sure. So the amendment then is to add to the list of stakeholders, representative from the GOPB, representative from the LFA, and 2 members of the general public. Member Bogus, is this to the amendment? Your light?
No, it's not.
Okay. Let's go ahead and vote then on this amendment. Member Green?
Yes.
That passes unanimously. Okay. Chair Davis and then Member Bogus.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to note that task force, or not that group that the treasurer is working with, I think specifically would address the items that Member Bogus had originally brought up in the original motion in the full board that then led to the committee. So, anything we do want to incorporate that as well and coordinate with them. But I also want to just note that this group is not probably going to have recommendations for this particular session. I mean, it's from the people that I've talked to, anticipate for the following session because of the many layers that are involved in the system of the taxes. So I just want to make sure that's, everybody understands, just to manage some expectations. And maybe they get a certain amount done and contribute to whatever's being happening, in the session this time. But it could take longer. I just want to make sure people are aware of that.
Member Bogus.
Thank you. So I move that we remove the Utah Taxpayers Association. We've got a
There's
number. What?
Is that your motion? Or
That is
you
a
wanna speak?
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cut you off before you could speak to it.
Oh, I'd be happy to speak to it.
I know you. Let's get a second though.
Okay.
So the motion, let me just restate it. The motion is to remove the Utah Taxpayers Association. Is that correct, Member Bogus?
Yeah.
And then is there a second?
Second for
We got-
discussion.
Please go ahead, Member Bogus.
Okay. So, first of all, they're registered lobbyists, and I think we have a good broad swath of individuals here that are representative from across the state. I think we've done really well. In particular, the Utah Taxpayers Association, according to disclosures.utah.gov, has only filed once in the last 3 years. And that document says they spent $60,000 on signature gathering, which means they're hyperpartisan in some manner or another. And I think if we're going to do this, we need to do it with as much objectivity as possible. And I don't know that that kind of an organization brings that kind of objectivity. So just a thought, and I'll leave it to the body. Thank you.
Member Davis.
I would tend to agree, but for one thing that I may need to seek some clarity on in my brain, and maybe staff can help with this, but it's my understanding that they've been given legislative authority to approve or disapprove based on certain criterias, local board's ability to put forward the taxes. I don't either. That's what, if it is, we may need to keep them, but if not, we could remove them. I think.
Well, if it's true, I need to make a legislative request.
So, okay.
To approve or
Cindy,
disapprove.
Sorry, we're having like half of a conversation,
Sorry.
like, yeah, so your question, who's it directed,
Is to staff. Has the Utah Taxpayers Association been given legislative authority to approve or disapprove the local board's abilities to tax based on certain criteria?
the answer was no.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Follow-up? Yeah.
Yes. Well, who was the entity that was saying you didn't, dot this T on the website right or something? Who is that entity that's doing that?
Scott, please.
Yeah, that's the Tax Commission, Chair Hymas.
Thank you.
Not the Utah Taxpayers Association.
The Tax Commission is already under there, so,
Yep. So we
Yeah.
can't take it out.
so.
They
no, I-
don't have any part in the process.
yeah,
They're only lobbyists.
Right.
Okay.
Chair Hymas,
Please.
I mean, you could get a legal opinion on that because we're not attorneys, but our interpretation is no, that they're not part of that. They're under, an entity that doesn't have that authority. So does that help?
Yeah, helps me.
Okay.
Okay. So the motion then is to, I'm looking for it, very bottom, there it is, okay, to remove the Utah Taxpayers Association. I think that's it, right? From the list of stakeholders. Let's go ahead and vote.
Member Green is a yes.
Thank you, Member Green.
Up to Joe. Joe's the tiebreaker.
Don't forget, all their money is spent on signature gathering. That's the only expense they've had in the last 3 years.
I hate Oh, I was just saying I hate being the last one.
No pressure.
Vote with me, I'm your buddy.
Okay, that motion fails. 8 against, 7 in favor. Those in favor being Member Lear, Member Green, Member Booth, Member Bollinger, Member Davis, Member Longacre, and Member Bogus. So that brings us to the amended motion, and that is that the board directs staff to convene a working group to address the topics of voted and board levy, the guarantee, truth in taxation, and transparency. The working group should include invited stakeholders representing business administrators from local LEAs, local board members, legislators, representatives from USBE, the Utah Taxpayers Association, the State Tax Commission, a representative from the county level, a representative from the GOPB, a representative from the LFA, and 2 members of the general public. Let's vote. Member Green?
Member Green is a no.
That passes 13 in favor, 2 opposed, those coming from Member Green and Member Bogus. Chair Davis.
Thank you. Our last motion is that the board approves using $50,000 of federal mineral lease funds to support the Utah Community Math Initiative, Math Workshop, and Research Proposal. And I'd like to speak briefly to it, if I'm allowed.
Yeah, let me restate the motion. I've got a question. I'll send it back to you, Chair Davis, to speak to that, to give us more information, and then Vice Chair Bollinger has some questions. So the motion is that the board approve using $50,000 of federal mineral lease funds to support the Utah Community Math Initiative, Math Workshop, and Research Proposal. Chair Davis.
Do we need a second? No, it's coming out of committee. I don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah, just wanted to make people aware that this was one that you had mentioned, Member Earl, and we did have our staff talk with Ogden School District, and they did also talk with Ms. Jones, who was working on this project. And we're definitely interested and have communicated with her and are going to work with her and her company just for some refinement to our understanding. But we also checked to make sure that this wasn't necessarily funding a doctoral dissertation project or anything like that, and that was not the case. So we felt like the initial feedback was positive.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. Question, how was Ogden District chosen for this project?
Is that directed? I'm not sure if
It's-
that's directed to Chair Davis, or
I don't know whoever's in charge of this project.
are you pointing to staff or Member Earl? She's directly, yes. Member Earl, do you want to respond?
Yeah, it's location, meaning that the individual interested in doing this research is from that area.
Okay, follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Do we know if this is scalable? My concern about doing a project like this is the time and energy it takes to set up a program, and then if it's a one-time deal, it's a lot of taxpayer dollars to spend if it's not going to be an ongoing project that can be. Do we know if this is if the plan is just a one and done, or is the district committed to have an ongoing support?
I can't speak for the district on that. Let me just clarify a couple of things that do we have like a weird echo going on? Yeah. Yeah. So,
You know what that sounds like?
okay.
Whenever you're ready.
A couple
Earl.
of things. It was mentioned someone said her business. This is not her business. So I just want to be clear, because I got a couple of questions from staff asking that same thing. She is associated with an research entity that is not a university, because they always take half of whatever you do. And so this is a research entity that focuses specifically on math and STEM policies. This is just an extension of some of that research. So when you say scalable, the research could be used around the state when it's completed. Whether or not she's going to go out and advocate in all these different areas, no, I don't see that, right? It's the research that comes from it that would be usable throughout the state.
Okay, sorry, I have lots of questions
Yeah,
about
you're
this
okay.
because
I would have loved you to have
Yeah.
called me a little
Like,
before
well,
now.
and you mentioned that it's not funding a research project. However, our IRB fees are included in this, which is,
No, it is,
is
it is a research. That's what I'm
but
saying.
the
It is
dissertation,
research.
is the dissertation the research project?
I don't know what you're talking about, dissertation. This is the third time I've heard this, but this is not her dissertation. So wherever that came from, and I've heard it from some staff, she actually is finishing her doctorate currently. This is a research project. This is not a dissertation.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's where my confusion is because it says PhD candidate, and typically when a PhD candidate is involved in research, an IRB research project, it is for their dissertation. That's why I wanted to clarify that. Why we're paying, so we're paying the IRB fees just for the research project?
Which you would do if you're gathering data and doing a research project, you would have those fees. So
Okay.
yes, she, on the 17th of this month, she does her doctoral thesis. So if that helps clear that up, I don't know, I've heard that from 3 people now and I don't even know where the rumor came from, so.
Additional
Do-
questions? Yeah.
Are these the same
Okay,
questions
if somebody
that
else has, I can wait.
staff asked me 5 days ago?
Okay.
I'll put you back in the queue. I do want to recognize that Member Earl had her light on before being called on to answer. So I don't know if you had questions, and then I've got Member Carey, Member Davis, and then we'll come back to Member Bollinger.
I don't know, just go with the questions at this point. I'll just tell you this, it's, I mean, in the community itself, the Ogden School District said they probably wouldn't use it in one of their schools currently, but they would also, they were supportive of the concept and the ideas and had some ideas for it. Moving forward, they felt like it would be better for a summer program, but Weber School District, there's already a location at Weber School. I mean, not Weber School District. Weber State has a location for this project to go on. Weber School District said they would be happy to get the information out to parents for those that wanted to participate.
Okay. Let's go, Member Carey.
Thank you, Chair. I did have the opportunity to speak to Superintendent Rasmussen on this matter, and he was generally supportive, so I can't and I don't want to speak for him, but he liked the notion that we're tackling these math problems in a different way with an emphasis on bringing in the parents or the adults with the student. He did have some questions about it, and he told me that the applicant was more than willing to accommodate and address any concerns that he had at the time and continues to do so. But given their level of general support for moving forward, I think it's a good thing. And I think that someone doesn't always have to be from an LEA or a school to have a good idea about education. And here's someone who wants to improve student scores in a way that, yeah, it hasn't been tested, it hasn't been proven, but with enough credibility where you've gotten the superintendent to say, yeah, this idea is worth looking at. So I'm in favor of the application. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate the wordplay when you said tackling the math problem. Just saying. We tackle math problems every day. That's what students do. They tackle math problems. Okay, Member Davis.
I think the thing that moved me into support of this is, one, I love the emphasis on parents and helping to teach parents how to help kids with math in particular, and giving a space for this to happen with kids and with parents. But the bigger issue is financially, because I don't know that we would have the luxury of funding this for all these isolated areas and districts. But the bigger issue to me is that, just a reminder to the board, that federal mineral lease funds can only be used for research, to my understanding, if I'm understanding that right. And this is a research project, and so I think we should and can support, some research projects that may give us some information or create a model that could be scalable later into other districts if they choose to use it, or charters or private schools or whomever.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bollinger.
Yeah, do we know just, and I don't know if Member Earl's the one to answer this. Do we know if the teachers, because I know that teachers were going to be invited to this. Do we know if teachers would get paid to attend this? Is that part of the payroll? Is that the teachers would receive a stipend, or are they having to go on their own time to be part of this research?
It was an opportunity, and no, they would not be paid. So just open as an opportunity just for the parents too and the students, so.
So the motion then is that the board approve using $50,000 of federal mineral lease funds to support the Utah Community Math Initiative, math workshop, and research proposal. Seeing no other lights, let's vote.
Member Green is a yes.
Member Green, we barely heard you. Will you repeat that?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that passes 13 in favor, 2 opposed, those opposed being Member Bogus and Member Bollinger. Chair Earl. Or Chair Davis, sorry. Thank you. That concludes the report, or the report out. Okay.